a spontaneous random video thought slash rant. So, a little while ago, Pat and Ian did a podcast calling out everybody who talked shit about them during the Intellivision Amico fiasco. Pretty much a lot of people that were calling them out and attacking them, specifically because they were doing a lot of negative coverage about the Intellivision Amico. Just pointing out how this doesn't feel right, this seems sketchy, everything they're showing and not talking about, and their way they're trying to advertise this seems really sketchy. And for some reason, a lot of people began really, really attacking them, calling them out, calling them frauds and fakes and whatnot. But from what I understand, a lot of people have been doing that with Pat for a long time. I don't really get why. Pat has had his hits and misses a lot, I will say. In terms of, I would think, a good critique on Pat and Ian would be that sometimes they don't do proper research a lot of the time on stories. I can certainly point out a few good examples, but mostly I just want to talk about how I think it's absolutely ridiculous that all those people who talked so much shit about Pat and Ian decided to so quickly divert to criticizing them based on their looks, how they talk, and call them liars, frauds, even go so far as to claim that when Ian was sick, that he was faking it, even calling out his GoFundMe thing that a lot of fans asked and suggested that he did or do, because he didn't have insurance, for his medical payments and whatnot. Because God knows no one else has ever done that. No one else has ever turned to GoFundMe to help pay for their medical bills or anything like that. Jackasses. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous and insane, especially considering that, one of these people was someone I used to follow and like, and now I find out, oh, you're a huge drama-stirring douchebag, and so is quite a few other people, and I'm more than happy to point those people out. Review Tech USA and Larry Brundy, who I used to like. Larry Brundy wasn't mentioned in the video, but he does do a lot of passive-aggressive bullshit on Twitter and in people's comments. A lot of the time, I thought it was really douchey how he had the nerve to tweet on someone else's tweet, trying to call out Pat, where it was someone previously who had said that that Pat had them blocked, blah, blah, and someone else said, Pat can't take criticism, and then Larry responded saying, Pat's pretty thin-skinned, and I pointed out, how is criticism, making fun of how someone talks, or anything like that, or making fun of their mental disabilities, how is that criticism at all? That'd be like somebody criticizing me because I have a speech impediment, or because of my anxiety, or because of my depression. That's not criticism, dudes. That's just being an asshole. That's all that is. Real criticism of someone's work would be saying, you don't do very good work on your scripts, so you need to work on that. Your research is not very valid and not very well done. A lot of the points that you make aren't really very good arguments, or can be, like, for example, I remember somebody complaining about in the first Avengers movie how he didn't like how and this was such a weird thing too, how he didn't like how it seemed like they were making Cap and Stark like so buddy buddy. And I remember saying to him, they weren't buddy buddy. And really, they didn't become buddy buddy until a couple of movies later in Avengers, where right from the start, they really didn't like each other all that much. I mean, yeah, I mean, they would work together and whatnot, but they were also very snarky to each other. And Cap obviously really did not like Stark, and still didn't. It took a couple of movies for them to, and even then, that shit got rocked. But, you know, like, it's like, did you really not watch the movie all that well? Did you just not pay attention to it? Or another one that he had was, well, how did Cap and Stark like know so much about each other when they first met? Like, they were given files by Fury and by others from S.H.I.E.L.D. on each of the other members to, you know, familiarize them. Did you watch the fucking movie at all? You probably didn't. Or you're just a DC fanboy. Who the fuck knows? But, yeah, it's, you know, it's that sort of shit. Where, hell, I can name some other examples. I want to do a video at some point, because this is something that has bothered me for a long fucking time. I want to do a video talking about Aaron Hansen's worst hot takes that he's ever made on any one of his playthroughs whenever he randomly says something stupid about a game or a game series. And he's done that for a long fucking time, but I really want to do that. I just need to find the actual clips of, and that's a lot of shit to go through, but I'd be willing to do it sometime. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. And it's funny how Pat did a video directly calling out and showing clips of these people talking all this shit, saying all this really dumb shit, promoting Tommy Tallarico, who's been basically revealed to blatantly be a liar, nothing more than a liar, where, hell, somebody even, like, did a video showing all the bullshit that he has said over the years. How on his review show at one point, when they talked about Metroid Prime, how in his little review show, Tommy blatantly said that he didn't like it. At all. He didn't like Metroid Prime. But oh, many years later, he has the fucking nerve. Now, yeah, he did have a company that helped make music for video games. But it was a company that had many other people involved in it. And many years later, he now has the sudden nerve to say that, oh, my company helped make the music for Metroid Prime. And he keeps on changing his story about it. About how, no, I did the music. In fact, I worked directly with, Shigeru Miyamoto on Metroid Prime, and I even gave him a few suggestions. Bull fucking shit. You did. A music company is not going to have any involvement in making a fucking game. I can guarantee you that. I have never been involved in making a video game, but I can sure as shit say that anybody that is involved in making music for a film, a video game, or whatever is not going to be allowed to input anything to do on how it's made or anything like that. That's not your fucking job at all. Shut up, you're a goddamn liar. And it's funny too how Rich and one of his buddies looked at Pat's same video where he called out all these people, and all he had to say in it was calling Pat gay and how he's probably fucking his buddy Frank and all this, but nothing to actually say on the actual video, especially in the clips where he shows Rich interviewing Tommy Tallarico and letting Tommy just say all of this insane bullshit. Yeah, and they even pointed out on their podcast how they didn't even watch the entire video, which was obvious. And I think it's funny how now, of course, it's only later, but on Reddit, like some people are talking about, oh, I'm glad Rich later, spoke out about Tommy Tallarico and the Intellivision. Yeah, he did that later, after it turned out to be bullshit. He didn't do it before, and he did 2 interviews with Tommy Tallarico promoting his bullshit. Rich is not a good person. He's an idiot, and he's a liar, and he's an asshole, and he's a fucking shill. Him and his dumbass friend. That's bullshit. It is. I think it's fucking sad. It's sad, it's pathetic, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you want to call out criticism, you can. I mean, for example, I think the way Pat and Ian handled that whole, Diablo Immortal thing was kind of bullshit. How them calling the fans who called out Blizzard when they were showing it off, how, they asked them, very jokey questions like, is this a late April Fool's joke? Because, yeah, they showed this off at, I believe, the last day of BlizzCon. They showed off Diablo Immortal, saying that, it's going to be a mobile game, only on phones. And it's like, is that really something you want to show to your fan base? Primarily all PC gamers? No, that's probably not a good idea. Blizzard, why would you do this? And yeah, Pat and Ian called those fans children, and Ian said, you should sit down and shut the fuck up. Which, yeah, I would say, no, guys, that's way out of line. Way out of line. Or another one was when they first talked about No Man's Sky, their very first video where they talked about that. And they only talked about the game. I don't remember if on the podcast they mentioned how they didn't, look at or look into any of the coverage or any other news on it. They just talked about their experience with it. And they said they liked it. And I find that very interesting, how they didn't bother to look up or into any of the hype or the news or anything. All of it, which was fronted by the head of the studio that was making it. How he was going on late night talk shows and doing all these interviews and talking about how there was going to be multiplayer. There, you could work with various other people. You could get involved in all sorts of battles, and you could get involved in giant intergalactic skirmishes and whatnot, form alliances with people, and that wasn't in the fucking game at launch. Wasn't in the game for quite a few years now. I mean, I understand the game has gotten a huge overhaul that they did for free, but bear in mind, this was a game at launch at $60, and all it was single-player Minecraft in space, with severe limitations on what you could do. And every other planet was kind of the same. And that was it. Resource management. That was all it was. Their take was kind of bullshit. It was. Because Ian, even said, I found it very relaxing and kind of cool. Yeah. Guys, that's not how the game was sold. At all. And the fact that you did no research on that is kind of shit. That's valid criticism. Right there. And I think they even did a follow-up video on it too. So that at least makes up for it. But that first take video wasn't very good, because they didn't take any of the news about it into that opinion at all. And Yeah. And yeah, and I mean, that sort of shit can be frustrating when. I mean, I've seen that same thing too, where. And it's only been a couple of times where. I believe one of the last times was when they were talking about the whole, change the channel thing that was going on with Channel Awesome, all the other people leaving, and while they were talking about it, one thing that they mentioned was Spoonie, and all Pat would say, and all Pat ever says every time Spoonie is mentioned or he mentions Spoonie is that, yeah, I don't know what he's, I don't know what he's been up to. I don't know what's been going on with him. But I hope he's okay. You have a laptop right in front of you. You could easily Google what's been going on with Spoonie. Because there are all sorts of Reddit posts, stories, and all sorts of shit that people have been talking about. I don't know how much of it is true, of course. But I know just from looking that on his website, even on his YouTube, all he's been doing, and this is, these are long video rants that I've done before talking about Spoonie, about how I used to be a huge fan. And then I fell out because he changed and he just became this angry person at everybody and just didn't seem to really want to do anything anymore other than these random live streams where he doesn't talk, he doesn't make jokes, and he yells at his audience every once in a while. I don't even know if he still even has his Patreon up. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he does. I would find it funny if he still has tiers set up that he's not meeting or anything like that. But, and again, that's something else to criticize about. Somebody who has a fan base, has a tier set up on their Patreon, doesn't meet it, hasn't ever met it, from what I understand, has never done a live stream of playing Cards Against Humanity with the fans or anything like that. Still hasn't done a Spoonie movie. I mean, I don't know what's going on with him either. I know he did an interview with someone, for anybody who may be familiar with a game that Spoonie played several years ago. What's the name of it? It was a sequel to another FMV game. I know the subtitle for it was Puzzle of Flesh. I want to say Pandora, but I don't think that's right. But anyway, the person that was the lead character in that game, he does a podcast where he does interviews with people, and he interviewed Spoonie. Now, I don't know how long ago they did this interview, but Spoonie even went so far as to say that in the interview that he would like to come back and start doing reviews again, because he hasn't done any sort of scripted or proper review in years. All he had done was just long, ridiculously long vlogs on movies that I stopped watching because they just got too ridiculously long and rambly. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. I hope he's okay. I do, but I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the sad and scary thing about, I guess, sometimes people on the internet is, I guess, because, and this was, mentioned a number of times by people in comments, which is another thing that's kind of funny. People saying how, oh, well, Pat and Ian, they would never, have the balls, to actually say that shit to my face. Ian told a story like a couple of podcasts ago about how an Intellivision Amico fanboy tried to confront him and tried to call him out, and Ian presented all of the valid arguments, including the fact that people had blatantly been attacking them. And yet that same person then later went on to write a comment, saying how, well, Ian, like, I tried to talk to him and he was a total jerk. Like, you were the jerk first, trying to be like, hey, like, why are you guys attacking, like, Tommy Tallarico? Because he's so cool. Because Tommy Tallarico is a liar and a dick. That's why. Because he's a liar and an asshole. And you're an idiot for believing him and wanting to do his dirty work for him. Like, it's ridiculous. And, yeah, and to their credit, they have said this shit, like, to people's faces. When people decide to be dicks to them, they gave it right back. But, some people just want to be really shitty. And I guess other times, because you're on the internet, and because you think that because you're hiding behind a keyboard or a video camera, and that you're probably never going to see this person directly, that you don't have to worry about actual confrontation or anything like that. But at the same time, it's like, you build up a reputation. It comes back to you. That you've talked shit about all these people, gave out invalid information about a lot of people, shilled for a lot of bullshit, and then you got called out for it. Now everybody knows you're a piece of shit. Congrats. It's ridiculous. And it's sad. It's sad, really. And yeah, that's not the type of person I want to be. At all. I mean, it might have been probably several years ago, but I don't want to be like that at all. I want to be, I want to be real. I want to do proper research if I'm going to talk about something. I want to know whatever it is that I'm talking about. Obviously, if it's not meant to be taken seriously, I could do that sort of thing. Hell, I kind of do for a silly review series with a character idea where I do a bullshit, like, negative review about a movie that I actually love, but it's my character who just doesn't get it and is just a stupid asshole. But I don't know. Maybe someday. Anyway, this has been a tad longer than I wanted it to be. I just had a lot of shit that I wanted to say, and because for another thing, like, it was for a retro game console when we just had this same bullshit happen quite a few years ago with the whole Coleco Chameleon thing. And once again, it turned into a bunch of bullshit. But the funny thing was that I guess that with that, there weren't as many people trying or really wanting to defend it all that much. I mean, there might have been a few, but they weren't as very loud or notable. But with this, with the Intellivision, there seemed to be a lot more people for some reason. I don't know. Maybe because Tommy Tallarico was a tad more well-known and had a bit of a bigger name. I had never heard of him before. I had heard the name Tommy Tallarico, but I didn't really know who he was until it's like, oh, okay, so he ran a company that made video game music, and one of those games was Earthworm Jim. And the fact, too, that Pat apparently used to be buddies with him, and, had him and, and along with a lot of other people, including, YouTubers and whatnot on, on his video game histories show, whatever that was, where, they would look at video games from a particular decade or time and, and they would talk about it. And, you know, it's kind of funny how he used to be on his show and now, obviously, they're not friends anymore. And now Tommy's name is in the dirt because he's a lying sack of shit. It's sad. Well, anyway, until next time, take care of yourselves.